Hello gamers and welcome to another exciting edition of Game Up. I'm Elwood.
I'm Kim.
And this is our featured game review for The Cave. The Cave is a 2013 release. It's a puzzle platform adventure game developed by Double Fine Productions and published by Sega. This was originally released for the earlier consoles, so the Xbox 360 as well as PlayStation 3, and has since been transferred onto both Android, iOS, as well as the more updated systems, so your Xbox One and your PlayStation 4. The game itself follows in a similar format to Manic Mansion, in which you select 3 of the colourful characters and are then tasked with guiding them through this mystical cave, which is voiced by Stephen Stanton. Depending on the party you choose will also affect the path that you will go, and along the way you will be required to use your team's mixed skills to solve puzzles and to also find out the secrets behind their individual paths as well. This is obviously an independent title that, since it's come out, has developed something of a cult following. What is it that you liked or be it disliked about The Cave?
I think my favorite part of The Cave is definitely the narrator, which is the magical talking cave, as they call him.
Yes.
And it's just, he's humorous and he's funny, and well, it's the same thing. Humorous and funny, and he's just has these funny little moments where he's just able to, just right from the start, you already know the tone of the game that we're going into. And he keeps to that really well. And, obviously that credits to not only the narrator being really enthusiastic and doing a really good job, but also a really well written script.
I think The Cave is certainly the highlight. It's the real backbone of this game because it provides such dry, humorous narration throughout, and it's constantly got this very sarcastic tone when certain events will happen, and it really helps sell a lot of the more unexpected moments. There's certain quests that you would go on which perhaps won't end the way that you think they're going to, and certainly choices that you choose to make in the game will often end badly for other people around you. So this is a really interesting sort of game because it's also not set in any particular one time period. The cave has the ability to transport you across time and space. There's no explanation of why the cave works this way. It just happens it does. So
well, it's magical. So.
I suppose that'd be the explanation we need for it. But depending on the party you choose, as we said already, I mean, we've got a colourful cast of characters. We've got the twins, we've got a knight, we've got a monk, we've got a time traveller, a scientist, an adventurer, and a hillbilly. And they've all got their own individual powers, like the hillbilly can breathe underwater, the knight's invincible, the time traveller can phase shift, so go between walls, the scientist can hack control panels, and the adventurer has a grappling hook. So you will, as you go along, you have to figure out how these skills are going to help further your quest, because like we've seen with Manic Mansion and the Lost Vikings, many of the puzzles are about these characters working together either as pairs or as a trio to solve puzzles. Certainly, for example, one of the early puzzles requires one of your characters to act as bait to lure a monster out, while the other character activates the control panel to drop a hook down to pick up the monster. So right from the start, it gives you a good idea of the sort of puzzles you're going to be facing. And certainly playing this game, I felt the puzzles were very fair. There was nothing that was frustratingly sort of stupid in how you would solve the puzzles. It was sort of very, oh, that's what I need to do, and it never sort of punished you for picking the wrong sort of characters. Regardless of which characters you have, it's always able to. There's always a solution there for you to progress using the characters that you have.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's really nice. And plus, having all these different characters and these different paths that you get to take really, give the game a replayability sort of value. So it's not really you go in, I mean, for example, I ended up choosing the time traveler, the scientist, and the hillbilly. And I know you chose a completely different cast of characters. And, both of us had different experiences playing this game because we went through different paths and different quests. And, and it's just, the story and the turns that it takes along with, just the puzzles is all about finding and linking these different things together that you're getting, these different objects that you pick up. It kind of feels a bit like a point and click adventure in a certain way where, you find something and then you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna hold on to this item. And then what's really interesting as to why we need to work together, because sometimes you need all these items in one spot and only your character can only carry that one thing. So, there are certain mechanics of this game that really works into that whole teamwork sort of thing. Obviously, like right now with all of the online co-op, it makes you think that maybe this would have been like a perfect game that would have been redone so that you can play with your friends and like be able to work on these missions together instead of having to be like, oh, I'm flipping through another character. Now I need to walk all the way back to where that character is and then do all these redundancy things,
Yeah. Certainly I like the idea that certain characters will open up certain paths, such as if you choose the knight, you end up on a quest to get a magical amulet and to enable you to pull the sword from the stone and win the princess's heart. If you're the hillbilly, you get to go to a hillbilly carnival, which was something that made me wish that I'd really chosen that character instead of going like the adventurer, which is like an Indiana Jones style level. At the same time, you will have certain levels that you will encounter regardless of the character you take, such as a level where you're helping a miner gather his minecarts.
Are we really helping him though? Because he's blowing us up real bad.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you can't die, which is really interesting, and the fact that the cave actually tells you off for killing yourself. It's sort of like, okay, now you're just being stupid. And
definitely.
It's the narration, it just feels like it's actually interacting with the choices you're making. It's not just like this background element. It's actually feels like it's observing what you're doing and then giving commentary on it. And it reminded me very much of like the commentary in Blood Bowl 2, in the fact that it felt like it was very involved in what we're doing. It wasn't just randomly generated and just there just to fill sort of time, really.
Yeah, like the cave is actually alive and it's actually watching everything you do. And that's really nice. I mean, like I said, like my favorite part is definitely the narrator just because he's so like snarky and he has all these like the humor is right up my alley. And obviously like I always feel that when people use comedy as like as a part of the story, it's always hard to get a big following because everyone's style of humor is different. And like for myself, and obviously you appreciated the sort of like wacky, sarcastic humor. This really, really worked for us in that sense. But obviously, like the game wasn't, maybe it's because of the age and maybe it's because of other things. But there are issues with the games that we've encountered. Like there were some little glitches here and there on my part, and that that kind of like nothing that disturbed my gaming experience, I guess, but I know that you had something that disturbed your gaming experience.
Yeah, unfortunately I managed to find a game-breaking glitch, and while I thought it was just like a one-off thing, unfortunately it seemed to be, for this particular character, that if they hit a certain area, they would just like sink into the floor, and there was no way to get them out, so it was a little frustrating, and it kind of made me glad that the game has its own autosave, so you can't, as frustrating as this sounds, you can't save it when you complete certain sections. It will only save once you complete a level. Which in terms of when you're encountering glitches is great because it means that you're not going to end up in this area where you're sort of like stuck because you've saved at the wrong sort of point. But at the same time, when these glitches aren't disappearing, it becomes a little frustrating and it kind of prevents you from getting any further to begin with anyway. So, but no, I mean, certainly I enjoyed the style of gameplay that it gives us here, and it's certainly something that we haven't seen in a while. I mean, as I said, last time I saw this sort of multiple character puzzle solving was on the Lost Vikings and like with Manic Mansion and those sort of like LucasArts point and click adventures where you're having to coordinate multiple characters so that they can assist each other, and it was a nice throwback in that way, and it made me kind of wish that there was more games like it, because I thought it was just a really strong mechanic. Certainly the ability to switch between characters is really quick and really simple to do, so it's not like you're having to go for this whole palaver just to get to the character you need. I mean, yes, it's a bit of a pain in the backside when you've got one character with the item that another one needs and they're like at the other end of the stage, but thankfully the levels themselves aren't so big that it's like this epic trek that you have to do just to get the shovel to someone at like the top of the level, for example. And
Metroidvania level design, it is not. Let's put it that way.
Frankly. The other thing that's really nice about this game is the art style. It's really, really pretty game to look at, and this is art provided by Andy Wood, and the characters are all real sort of chunky. The environments are real nice to look at, and they're varied as well, and they suit, certainly when you get onto the levels specific for certain characters, such as like if you're playing as the twins, you get to go to the mansion, the venture, you get to go to like this pyramid setting, and they're all tie in with their characters, and they provide such nice variety that it's not like, oh, I'm in a cave. You get some real variety, and it helps really mix things up. And it, as I said, it makes you want to go back and experiment with the other characters to see what levels they have.
And their stories.
Exactly. Because as we go on, you obviously find out the reasons why this group have been brought to the cave, why they're in the cave, and their backstories as you collect the hieroglyphics scattered around the levels. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, this game is crazy. Like, if you look at just, like, the achievements itself, like, not only is it, like, you get achievement for completing the level that you've done or the general levels even, but, I mean, like, for each character, they have that, and then there's, like, little things you can like, you know, like, we were talking with the miners, and one of the achievements is if you blew all your characters up with a dynamite, I think in one shot or something, then you get an achievement for that. Or you made because in one of the time travelers levels, quests or whatever you call it, you can make your characters smell like a dinosaur, and you have this like beautiful art of like this yellow, smelly, like, you know how cartoons would do, like you have this stinky smell emitting out of you, and it just trails as you run, and it's just this really, really nice details in the art that really make the game, you know, stand up and be very unique to play. So with that said, what would you score this?
For myself, I give this a 4 out of 5. I think that the art style is really nice. Certainly the scripting as well is also really fantastic. This is a game packed with colourful characters and even more colourful environments, with a good sense of fairness with its puzzles, and it's an enjoyable experience. The only thing which obviously stops me marking it higher is just those annoying bugs that are still within the game. And I mean, this is a game that's been out certainly long enough, you would have thought, for them to have got a fix, or whether I'm just been unfortunate to stumble across something that no one else has. But yeah, I think it's a game well worth discovering, and worthy of its sort of cult following.
I agree. I'm actually exactly the same spot as you for 4 out of 5. For exactly the same reasons. So this wraps up this episode. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Head over to our home base, thatmomentin.com, to read gaming reviews. You can get gaming news every single day on Twitter and Facebook at GameWarp Podcast, or hang out with us on our Twitch channel where we stream at GameWarp Podcast, or check out our much more frequented Instagram account where we talk about our gaming obsessions and maybe gaming snacks and such. Instagram.com/GameWarp Podcast. Till next time, bye.